Howdy, good morning, my friends. It is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. We're going to go ahead and take a look at yesterday. Yesterday was just a beautiful market. You know, the price action couldn't have gotten any better. Our new roadmap levels are working out incredibly well, right? We just started building these out the end of last week. So, obviously, Friday was a total mess. If we go back to Friday, whoops, wherever we were here, probably back here, it was just an up and down chop fest on Friday, right? We opened and chopped around down here. It wasn't really holding our roadmap levels perfectly, kind of peeking through them. Super messy, and I warned you guys not to be trading Friday of last week because it was contract rollover, quadruple witching, and I'm sure a couple other things all adding up. So it didn't make sense to be trading. And, you know, there were some opportunities inside of here, but a little bit messy. And then at the end of the day, they did pop to new highs. Again, we do have a lot of clues for the bulls all the way back from the lows of last week. So the attempt to push back up was not surprising. And then as we came into Sunday's Globex session, this is kind of how the market has looked, right? It's been really strong, continued to push higher. So we can take a look at Sunday's Globex here, holding the first test of the fast moving average and every other test of the fast moving average the whole way up, except for that one shy little peek through to come down there in the middle of the night. So coming into yesterday morning, this is the market that really just absolutely blew my socks off. Every time I came back to look, I was just amazed at how perfect price worked from our roadmap levels, which again are brand new, and off of basically all the textbook trade setups that I talk about. So right out of the open, that's the only, well, I took another trade because I faded the very level I warned you guys about was the beginning of our major kind of pocket of choppiness. So when we came into the open, what was the market doing? I hope you guys are recognizing this stuff. I hope you guys saw this happen yesterday morning. We were, first of all, you can see in Sunday's Globex session, they got rejections right off the first roadmap level almost perfectly and took a couple hours before they finally broke out through the first one. And then they came up right to the next one. The Hopel was not on the chart. I always got to mention that. Doesn't print until 6 in the morning Eastern. So that's how the chart really looked on Sunday's overnight session. They came right to the next roadmap level and got a bunch of bearish divergence for some fade opportunities there. And then they launched through that. And then when we came into the open, we had maybe we could say a holy alignment of stuff. We had obviously the overnight resistance sitting right off our roadmap level at 57.7 quarter. It was a roadmap level specifically because I know that the market has trouble when it pushes into that area, looking at previous price action, historical price action. We had the 200 moving average coming right up into alignment with that area. And so as the market opened here, there's our vertical line. There's the 930 New York open. I just went ahead and put my entry right there. I put it in at 77 quarter. I got filled. I took on less than a point of risk, and the market never came back. So yesterday you could have been done. You could have made your trading decision at the open as it was pulling back, coming right into that very, very, very noticeable alignment of a whole bunch of stuff. And that's it. It never came back. One trade, one and done. Right? So beautiful opportunity yesterday to get in, take on less than a point of risk, and get, I don't even know how far the market pushed yesterday, but my entry was at 57.7, let's just say 57.77. And how far did the market push by the end of the day there? 58.25. So we're talking nearly a 50 point push with almost no risk. And that is the very trade setup I talk about very often. Now you could have waited for the divergence to form, which it did, and you would have noticed that we just got a textbook divergence from that level. And at that point, you could have tried to get into the market if you wanted. However, you were going to do that. They pulled right back to give you another perfect entry at 77.25 there with a divergence. So you did have another opportunity as it came back to that area with that divergence right there, and then you could have got in. Now, if you didn't get in right off the roadmap level, right where the rotation is expected to happen, you then had to play the FMA because it was just such an extreme push. So whether it was the pullback here, which got about maybe almost 2 points through, or that first little kiss right there 5 minutes after the open. And so it was very aggressive at that point. You just kind of had to hold your nose and hope we were going to get the breakout or a strong push, I should say. So they come up. Let's just look at the rest of the day because I think this is a masterclass in how to trade around our stuff. Now, yesterday was just a perfect market. It's not always going to be like that, but let's look. So we push out from our first roadmap level, and we come right to the first roadmap level above us. Now we do have, this is not on our news reports. In fact, my members don't even know what this level is until right now. I put this on here as a short time frame rotational area. So what do I mean by that? I mean, like trading on a tick chart, I typically will see rotations right around 97.5. And what happened? We pushed right to 97.5, pulled back, held the FMA, and came right into our first official roadmap level. And that's where I then acted on a short because this was the beginning. If you were in our pre-market broadcast where we map all this out and talk about all these areas, I told you that this pocket here from 58.46 to 58.03 is a major messy chop zone. And so, holding from the bottom end of it could very well be where we get the next deeper pullback off of. Or maybe at the top end of that. And then inside of there, we have a lot of very close levels. So I warned you guys to be careful up here because they could kind of chop around in here and not really get any big moves. So as they came up again, I faded the back end of that area because I had 3 minute, 15 minute, I think 30 minute potential for the bears. Again, it was a really good level, and then I got a bunch of nice clear divergences off these swings, and I got a decent little scalp out of it. So I did take my profit off at in front of the 200, and I basically nailed the swing low of that move, and then it came right back. So luckily, I got out off the just in front of the 200 there, and that's where the market bounced. And then you can see you then got, and I couldn't believe this because I was like, okay, I'm good for the day. I just got 2 awesome trades. I'm not going to start going back and cutting myself up. And they pull back right to the roadmap level here for a couple scalps where you could have gotten almost a 5-point bounce 2, 3, 4 times. And then they come right to the 200 again. Basically, you can see they're just testing the morning high, but you come right into the 200 and bam, push to the next roadmap level. So there was another beautiful long opportunity, very similar to the setup out of the open. We were testing the previous swing high. In the market, we had the 200 coming into alignment with the roadmap level, and we bounced from there. And then here, same thing, and we had the divergence as well, which I failed to mention from that setup out of the open. So again, beautiful push right to the 200, beautiful divergence, and then you get the push. So great long opportunity to go in the direction of this trend. And then they get up through and we get I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong area. So they come up through and they pull back right into it. And it's the same divergence. It's just a slightly different setup. We basically had one of those, I don't even remember the name of it anymore, but a double bottom on the RVI, a lower bottom on price. Right, so there is that same, basically that same setup out of the open right here, and then we get the next pop, only to fail right off the roadmap level to the tick. And this is, I updated these levels for you guys at like an hour or half hour before we started our broadcast yesterday. And I told you guys 58.15 for whatever reason is sticking out, and 58.22 is sticking out. A little bit more than some of the other smaller levels we had inside of here. And so where do we get our first major pullback? Right off 15 to the tick. Then it pops back out, only to get a little messy and pull back right back to the roadmap level. Again, these levels were just put on the chart basically this week. Right up to it. Balances for a beautiful retracement back to the 200 where you got another 8-point bounce. And then they made a little messy, pulled back, came right to the VWAP. So again, just picture perfect price action yesterday. Right to the VWAP. We get a triple bottom off the VWAP. Every test, maybe not the first test, but every test after that gave you a decent divergence. And then we broke out to push up. And where did we fail next? I just mentioned I gave you two levels that stuck out above the 58.03 level in our chop zone up here. And they come right to it at the end of the day. They pull back right to the tick off, or almost to the tick, for a nice, whatever it is, over 5-point pullback. Peek through it, and then the last three tests are right off of it to the tick. 4 tests. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to the tick, divergence on every swing, and we get the pullback at the end of the day. So you tell me where you're going to get this type of accuracy. I don't know anywhere else in the world we're going to get this type of accuracy for these rotations and then have signals that line up, especially that 3-minute. Remember, these 512 signals are short time frame signals that if you're going to rely on them, you can only expect maybe a point or two in terms of a rotation. And then if it follows through from there for a bigger move, then that's icing on the cake. But 512 is very short time frame signals, and basically what you can expect from a 512 signal realistically is this type of stuff: a bounce, a 2-point push, and then a potential reversal signal that leads to a 2-point pullback. And so if it gets a deeper push, then that's great. That's why I like to have my 3-minute time frame confirming the signal. And if we go to the 3-minute yesterday, pretty much every rotation we had beautiful 3-minute clues for, except for the one right out of the open there. But I wasn't really concerned with that because we had our 200, we had the previous overnight swing, and we had just, I don't know, it just looked like a perfect spot, right? So that didn't have necessarily a signal, but then we came up, we started to get into that 03 area. We then got through it, and then this is really what I'm looking at here. As we're going in the direction of our move, we pull back, and there's that setup, the test of the morning high, the pullback into the 200 moving average on the short time frame, and our bullish 3-minute signal. So popped out, then we got the bearish 3-minute signal right off of that roadmap level I just mentioned. Pulled back, I believe that's the test of the 200 again or something. Then it popped out eventually and came all the way up with the bullish signal off the VWAP to come to the high of the day, where once again we test into 22, peek through it, bearish 3-minute signal for the pullback at the end of the day. So again, this 3-minute will help iron out some of the messiness on the 512 to give you confidence to potentially try a rotational area, right? So that concludes our little review and lesson. And now that brings us here into the overnight session where they continue to pull back. And notice what happened here last night. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you look at this stuff, it almost looks like I paint all this in here after the fact to make it look perfect. But this stuff was all on the chart last night before price ever did any of this stuff. So they sell off out of the open, hold the back end of the roadmap level. First test there out of the Globex open. They hold the back end of the FMA twice and then peak up right to the roadmap level again with a double top and a test of the 200. So they pull back from there. Again, you didn't have to necessarily just fade the 200, but if you noticed this last night, This is getting later, at least on the East Coast, starting to get kind of late, around probably 10 p.m. Should have saw that very clear signal, a typical test of the 200, test of the roadmap level, bearish divergence, and saw the confirmation of the signal there as that candlestick printed down here, and you could have oriented yourself for a bearish trade. So I'm not saying you nailed the double top. I actually saw the double top last night, but I wasn't looking to trade, and that sure enough was what happened. And then bearish divergence off the 200 in the close of the day before again. And then where's the biggest bounce of the overnight session? Our roadmap level. Oh, look, it's 58.03 once again. Right, so pretty awesome stuff. That brought us now up to push to new highs. And then here, just in the last couple hours, where do they go? Roadmap level, pull back, roadmap level on the 200, break out, and now, oh, we're pulling back off the next roadmap level as I speak. Right, so just unbelievable. I don't believe this stuff. That's kind of why I like to share this, because it's almost like if I didn't share it, people would not believe how accurate this stuff is. Now, I had the unfortunate happenstance of buying the pullback here just a couple minutes ago into the FMA. So this is the most aggressive trade you could take using my system. And it did bounce out. It did almost get a 2-pointer out of that, but then rolled over. So I took a little stop out here just before the broadcast started. All right, so I'm not trying to just cherry pick everything here. These are real trades that I've taken. And sometimes I don't lose. Sometimes I get in, like yesterday, and I nail the low of the day to the tick almost, and then nail the first major rotational pullback, right? And then get out right where the next rotation happens. So yeah, it might look like, oh, he's just picking out all of his winning trades, but that's exactly how it happened. It's very realistic to have that type of results using this system. Again, nailing the low within a point or two, nailing the major highs within a point or two, and getting yourself some really incredible trades in terms of risk to reward. And then you can see here this morning, well, my first trade of the day was a loser. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. It was an aggressive setup off the FMA. But again, this to me looked like a ripe opportunity, especially with all the divergence forming here, not only on the 512 tick, but on the 3-minute chart. So let's go to the 3-minute and look at this pullback here this morning. So as it's pulling back to 29, my little short time frame level, I get all this 3-minute bullish divergence as well. So it wasn't like I just took it because it's the FMA. I took it because there was an extreme divergence forming. So there's an example of it not working out. It very well could have bounced right from there and pushed another 20 points to the upside, because just earlier in the overnight session, it's exactly what happened here. Now, it was a little less aggressive on this test because we actually had our roadmap level and the overnight resistance right there. So that would have been a much sexier setup. This was, again, a short time frame level and the most aggressive moving average we rely on. So I took a little bit more risk there and it didn't work out. And now you can see in the last couple minutes, they hold the pullback to the high of the day before, and we're projecting once again off 32. So that is our review, my friends. We have just a little bit of time here to do our pre-market planning here before the market opens. So let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames.